It is Friday, September 26th, and two former FBI directors now in big trouble. James Comey, indicted last night, arrested this morning. Also, Christopher Wray, former FBI director after James Comey, allegedly just caught this morning perjuring himself to Congress about what happened on J6. The FBI now forced to admit, that 275 undercover agents were at the Capitol on J6. Not assets, not confidential human sources like we've been told for years, but real undercover plainclothed agents. We'll show you.
I believe to my core that there's only one right way to do this job, and that is with strict independence, by the book, playing it straight, faithful to the Constitution, faithful to our laws, and faithful to the best practices of the institution. Without fear, without favoritism, and certainly without regard to any partisan political influence. And that's the commitment I would make to this committee and to the country if confirmed. And I have way, way, way too much respect and affection, frankly, for the men and women of the FBI to do anything less than that.
In a brand new bombshell report, the FBI did, it turns out, deploy almost 300 undercover plainclothed agents to the U.S. Capitol during the J6 riot. Just the news obtaining a copy of the Bureau's after-action report, which had been hidden from Congress, hidden from the American people for over 4 years. In this report, this internal Bureau report, it outlines the chaos that was caused due to this decision, due to the FBI leadership ordering 275 of their agents, maybe more, employees to blend in to the MAGA crowd on J6. The report detailing how the effort became so chaotic that it resulted in this internal schism within the agency, quoting many rank-and-file agents complaining that core competencies had been lost to, quote, wokeness, and that employees had become, quote, pawns in a political war. That's what these agents who were forced to go there, forced to participate in this, were telling the Bureau after all of this went down. You could see the report here. This is called an after-action report. In it, scores of FBI agents and other personnel as well who work for the Bureau, most of them from the premier field office in Washington, D.C., the WFO, the Washington Field Office. That's where all of this crazy political action came from. When they raided Roger Stone's house in Florida, who instigated that? Who started that? That came from the Washington, D.C. field office, not the Miami field office. And this report accounting how the 7th floor sent them into a dangerous situation without proper safety equipment on J6 or even the ability to identify themselves as armed officers to other members of law enforcement. So Capitol Police, other members of the Metro PD weren't aware that there were these real FBI agents in the crowd. One of the agents quoted saying leadership must identify viable exit options for FBI personnel who no longer feel it's legally or morally acceptable to support a federal law enforcement and intel agency motivated by political bias. Several other agents specifically mentioning in this report that the Washington field office and its culture, quote, WFO, Washington Field Office, is a hopelessly broken office that's more concerned about wearing masks and recruiting preferred racial sex groups than catching actual bad guys. In total, there's 50 pages of this, quote after quote, from real FBI agents, many of whom were sent undercover into the crowd on J6. Now, why is this important? Because for years, for 4 straight years, the U.S. government has lied about that day, refrained from confirming or denying if any FBI agents participated in the riot that day, if they were maybe involved in creating the situation that kickstarted it in the first place. Were they? I have no idea, but we now know without a shadow of a doubt that Chris Wray most likely lied under oath to Congress on multiple occasions, and that almost 300 agents of his agents, not confidential human sources, but real FBI agents, were at the Capitol that day. Here's former FBI Director Wray, under oath, being asked this very question. Watch how he answers it.
Focusing on those who were there in an undercover capacity on January 6th, how many were there?
Again, I'm not sure that I can give you that number as I sit here. I'm not sure there were undercover agents on scene.
I find that kind of a remarkable statement, Director. At this point, you don't know whether there were undercover federal agents, FBI agents in the crowd or in the Capitol on January 6th.
I say that because I want to be very careful. There have been a number of court filings related to some of these topics, and I want to make sure that I stick within what's in.
I understand that, but I thought I heard you say you didn't know whether there were FBI agents or informants or human sources in the Capitol or in the vicinity on January 6th. Did I misunderstand you? I thought that's what you said.
Well, I referred very specifically to undercover agents.
Yeah. And so are you acknowledging then there were undercover agents?
As I sit here right now, I do not believe there were undercover agents on scene.
Any
FBI
assets?
Agents.
Did you have any assets present that day in the crowd?
When it comes to what you're calling assets, or what we would call confidential human sources, sure. That's a place where, again, I want to be careful, much as I said in response to an earlier question. There are court filings that I think speak to this that I'm happy to make sure we get to you, assuming they're not under seal. And that can better answer the question than I can as I sit here right now.
Did the FBI have confidential human sources embedded within the January 6th protesters on January 6th of 2021?
Well, Congressman, as I'm sure you can appreciate, I have to be very careful about what I can say about when
Even now, because that's what you told us 2 years ago.
May I finish? About when we do and do not, and where we have and have not used confidential human sources. But to the extent that there's a suggestion, for example, that the FBI's confidential human sources or FBI employees in some way instigated or orchestrated January 6th, that's categorically false.
Did you have confidential human sources dressed as Trump supporters inside the Capitol on January the 6th prior to the doors being open?
Again, I had to be very careful.
It should be a no. Can you not tell the American people, no, we did not have confidential human sources dressed as Trump supporters positioned inside the Capitol?
Gentleman's time has expired.
You should not read anything into my decision not to share information
Director Wray,
on confidential human
gentleman's
sources.
time has expired.
All of this coming one day after disgraced former FBI Director James Comey was indicted by a grand jury on 2 counts, lying to Congress and obstruction of justice. The obstruction charge, that's a serious one. It carries a 5-year prison sentence.
Former FBI Director James Comey is now the first senior government official to face charges in one of President Trump's biggest grievances, the 2016 Russia investigation. Comey is charged with giving a false statement and obstruction of a congressional proceeding relating to the testimony he gave before the Senate Judiciary Committee 5 years ago. This indictment comes just days after the president publicly demanded it, and shortly after the person the president had picked to be the U.S. attorney in this office quit. And the new U.S. attorney, 3 days into that job, did what the president had wanted to happen only 5 days before the statute of limitations was set to run out. Tonight, the president is celebrating, writing in all caps on Truth Social, quote, "Justice in America. One of the worst human beings this country has ever exposed to is James Comey, the former corrupt head of the FBI. Today, he was indicted by a grand jury on 2 felony counts for various illegal and unlawful acts. He has been so bad for our country for so long and is now at the beginning of being held responsible for his crimes against our nation." The president ended his post with "Make America Great Again." This comes as I'm told by sources tonight that James Comey is expected to surrender tomorrow morning. We'll be watching, obviously, that appearance very closely. But the former director of the FBI has already made quite clear tonight that he's prepared to fight these charges.
This happening with just 3 days remaining until the statute of limitations ran out. Many Trump supporters believing these are long overdue charges, that Comey should have been arrested, should have been charged years ago. Trump critics arguing that these charges are a dangerous escalation in the president's campaign of retribution. That's what you're going to hear on mainstream media, where Trump's using the powers of his office to enact revenge against those who he believes wronged him. The truth For years, for 8 straight years, all we've heard from Democrats and liberal media is how nobody's above the law. Over and over again, they drilled that into our heads. Well, James Comey allegedly lied to Congress and obstructed justice. A grand jury in the Eastern District of Virginia, not a conservative area at all, came back with a true bill decision, meaning indicted James Comey, releasing a recorded statement last night declaring his innocence and attempting to persuade Americans to fight back against Donald Trump. Watch what he said.
My family and I have known for years that there are costs to standing up to Donald Trump, but we couldn't imagine ourselves living any other way. We will not live on our knees, and you shouldn't either. Somebody that I love dearly recently said that fear is the tool of a tyrant, and she's right. But I'm not afraid, and I hope you're not either. I hope instead you are engaged, you are paying attention, and you will vote like your beloved country depends upon it, which it does. My heart is broken for the Department of Justice, but I have great confidence in the federal judicial system, and I'm innocent. So let's have a trial and keep the faith.
Luckily for Jim Comey, he can still talk in public. He can make his case to the American people. Donald Trump, on the other hand, couldn't. Trump was slapped with a gag order during almost every one of his trials. They wouldn't let him talk in public. That's how crazy all of that was. Dems and the media jumping on the weaponization bandwagon, how this is a dangerous day in America, they claim. Trump's weaponizing the Justice Department. The president responding to this, saying, no, that's not what I'm doing. That's not what the DOJ is doing. We're not weaponizing anything. They're holding the weaponizers accountable. Watch what he said this morning.
President Trump, are you worried now that the next time there's a Democratic president, they will indict your FBI director or people in your administration?
That's what they tried to do, right? They did it with me. For 4 years, they went after me. They went after me for 4 years, and that doesn't include the 4 great years that we had in the White House. So when I ran it from, 2016, when we won, it began before I got to office. You know that. Wait a minute. Before I came to office, I started hearing rumors about Russia. I said, what the hell do I have to do with Russia? Nothing. And then it got worse and worse. And some of the fakers, not you, but some of the fake news picked it up and they loved it. And we went through a long time with that. And despite that, we had a great first term.
Because that's how it went, where they made you go and take a mugshot. Is this more about justice or is it about revenge?
It's about justice, really. It's not revenge. It's about justice. It's also about the fact that you can't let this go on. They are sick, radical left people, and they can't get away with it. And Comey was one of the people. He wasn't the biggest, but he's a dirty cop. He's always been a dirty cop. Everybody knew it. And it's, as far as the case is concerned, he gave an answer. It was just...
Yesterday, we reported how Lindsay Halligan, the new interim U.S. attorney for the Eastern District, informed Pam Bondi and the White House like 2 days ago to expect resignations out of her office. We reported she was going to move forward with this indictment and that prosecutors in her office were threatening that they'd resign en masse if she went forward. Well, Lindsay Halligan, she called their bluff. And guess what happened? Only one resignation so far. Guess who it was? Comey's son-in-law. Jim Comey's son-in-law quits the DOJ, releasing his resignation letter to the press, which reads, Dear Miss Halligan, to uphold my oath to the Constitution and country, I hereby resign from the Eastern District of Virginia in the Department of Justice effective immediately. To uphold my oath to the Constitution, he says, or are you upholding your oath to your father-in-law? That's what it seems like. Let me know if you agree. Elon Musk weighing in on the indictment as well, posting this meme, Trump playing in the sand with seashells, just like Jim Comey did, this time writing FAFO, F around and find out. The media gaslighting their audiences this morning, how this is nothing, they say, like what happened to Donald Trump, that Jim Comey being indicted is worse. Way worse, they said, that it's a watershed moment in American history. Really? Watch.
That is a watershed. That is a line that we have crossed now in this country. And Republicans are going to say, Jen, well, wait a second, didn't the Biden administration do that? Didn't the FBI go after Donald Trump? That was completely different. That had no resemblance to what happened here with James Comey. Those were investigations based on the facts and the law, pursued by career FBI agents and career prosecutors overseen by a special counsel, totally walled off by any of the political leadership in the Biden administration. Millions of Republicans do not believe this, and that is one of the reasons we are where we are, but it is a fact. And this, what happened with Comey is so much different.
How stupid do they think we are? We remember what you did. These are the photos, the mugshots of some, only some, by the way, of the Trump advisors who were arrested, who were charged, imprisoned, embarrassed, raided by the FBI. Peter Navarro, shackled and perp walked. Peter Navarro, an economist, for contempt of Congress. They shackled him. They perp walked him. Rudy Giuliani, America's mayor, bankrupted, destroyed, ruined. Let me know what you think about this. Are you concerned about the pendulum swinging back again once Dems take back the presidency? Or do we need accountability for what happened, for what they did these past 8 years? Let me know what you think. All right, that wraps up this episode. Like, subscribe. We'll see you next time.